Good to go, Bridget? Thank you. Madam Chair, the floor is yours.
Does the camera go up and down to say yes?
Yeah. Or no, and those are the only two though.
Alright, we'll call the meeting to order. No public here.
Noel has nothing to add.
And approve the meeting minutes, for March.
Sure.
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Heather. Alright, approved,
Carrie, did you mind just call a vote on that?
oh yes, vote please.
Yes.
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 Thank
Yes.
Alright, how did our interviews go?
3.5 hours long.
For both, or
Both.
total? Wow,
Total.
that's awesome,
Yeah.
great, so we have some good information?
Well, I got a lot of scribbles, but yeah, got a lot of good information.
If you want, I'll take the lead on that.
Sure.
Sure.
Yours was 3 hours long?
Two.
No,
Two.
because Ryan's was half.
So in general, I felt that the chiefs were very reasonable. Basically, they took existing requirements or similar requirements and added items that are required. I'll give you an example, like holding cells. We
Mhm.
don't currently have those. This isn't like they're trying to expand existing requirements. These are missing
We've
requirements.
got a chair with a chain.
It's a bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, bench with pipe
can upgrade to a
bolted
chair.
to it, yeah. And so, I won't go down each one of
Sure,
those
sure.
items, but, they all seemed reasonable to me, and, they weren't trying to make palatial, it was all very, very reasonable. Matter of fact, there were a couple of things that I brought up that I said, are you sure? Like, do you have an area like for hazmat? And, oh no, we can use this or whatever, and
Yeah.
there's, to meet the evidence room requirements as an example. There is an existing evidence room, but it doesn't meet standard requirements. And they were able to reference a number of standards out there rather than just,
Wish
shooting
lists.
from the hip, exactly.
Yeah.
There was one thing, and I'm gonna bring it up, that, I made note of, and that was training spaces. And one of the things that I think both of them mentioned were to have a larger training space, than what they needed for their individual requirements. And that probably, makes sense to some degree, but where we went on our visits to existing, a lot of them cited something that was to the effect of, if we have a 40 to 50 person training space, then we can invite other towns and we get free training and so on and so forth. My point to that is that if everybody does it, then everybody has a big space and it may not be utilized. However, a very key point that they made, and I think this needs to be said, which is why I'm gonna make a specific point of it, is that their type of training isn't necessarily sit at a table and watch a presentation. Their training requires equipment, get down on the floor, it's not your standard, so it requires more space. So if you have 20 people, you really need space for 30 people. So the number of people is probably not the best metric. You should take whatever the training is, like taser training. You had some examples, but we'll use the taser training. You need 25 feet or whatever that standard is. So the training space needs to accommodate the specific training that's gonna be held. So, although I don't particularly buy the argument that you make it bigger so you can accommodate other towns and get some benefit out of that, but I do strongly support looking at the specific training and making sure we size that space to that. And and they would use this space. But I think we should look at all the requirements that it could satisfy, such as, maybe public hearings. This is not, I've been in here a number of times when the room was packed, and I don't know how big the space would be for how many people, but if we use it as a joint use, then I think we can accommodate a larger space than their individual needs.
I think a community meeting / training space is a great idea. Fold up tables.
Yep.
Stuff that can go up against the wall, maybe convert to benches for some of them, so that police and fire can do training, like you said. CPR training, all sorts of other training can be done in an open space where everyone can get around and see what's going on and
Mhm.
learn what's going on, as opposed to just sitting at a desk.
And
If I
Go
could
ahead.
just add to that real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
The only other thing I would add to that note, is that one thing that comes up with most of the towns who have the training rooms, you want external access for the public.
Mhm.
And you also want access to bathrooms that don't
Right.
require them to
Okay,
go
you're
through private
stealing my
quarters.
thunder.
I had to try.
Yeah.
But that's a huge thing, because once it's built after the fact, it makes it so much harder to figure out how to loop it around.
That was one of the things that every place we visited
Right.
talked about. Some places had it and didn't and knew like they should have, so that was definitely one of the things that was brought up with some places we went.
Now, to just make it easier, we went and discussed as if they would have their own facility. The next level of complication is a joint use, but keeping that in mind, I took the requirements, and A was for an admin space and O was for operational space. So all the O's on their respective operations is them specific, and they're not co-utilized spaces or whatnot. All the A's though, there's potential for joint use. Probably not the A's with the offices, but the office spaces, but at least things like the a training suite, the restrooms, a mutual joint lobby, if we go with a single public safety, fire and police facility.
Potentially locker rooms, or would those be separate?
Those
They
have to be
separate.
They have to
because
be
firearms.
separate.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we actually went down all of those items and looked at them, can they be jointly used? I will say from some of the site visits we made, as an example, we love to build buildings with like little closets for this and that and whatnot, and I think that like admin storage type space, that can be a bigger room, and then you can just have outfit it with the right filing cabinets and those sort of things. Remember the place we went, it had really shallow closets and they couldn't even get back, put the stuff they needed in.
Was that when
and
we just
whatnot.
stopped randomly in Ashburnham
Yes.
that time? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
So we learned something from some of the other places, and we started to get into flow, if it was a joint facility, but that was kind of beyond the initial scope here. But we were thinking about that. So, in summary, I think the chiefs were very reasonable. We looked at it from an operational standpoint versus admin, and they are looking at the flow, and I think, Seth, you mentioned like Rutland is the way not to do it.
Yes,
As an
absolutely.
example, I won't go into the details, but I think before we get the professionals involved, at least I have a pretty good understanding. I think both the chiefs thought that by the end, I knew what the general needs were, and that we can more effectively and efficiently work with the professionals that we're gonna have to bring in. We're obviously
Mhm.
not gonna build it from this table here,
Right.
this group.
And I think
Questions?
from the prior, studies that have been done, that have already done the space needs analysis, they've already gone into the police station, into the existing fire station, and already measured the space, so they already know what is existing, so they don't have to go back and redo that again.
Right,
They already
right.
know that, we have
Right.
that information, here you go, and, you know, we can just highlight these are the things that we would like to add on and do certain things, and, you know, keep it streamlined and focused.
Right.
And, you know, as Mike says, make it a square box or a rectangle, and it's just, you know,
Yeah,
keep
stop, yeah.
so.
I think Seth makes a very good point, that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And when he said, you know, we take existing and then add these things in, they're not adds so much as they're requirements.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
they're hard requirements, these aren't really negotiable items if you're
Wish
going to.
lists, yeah.
Yeah, they're not wish lists at all, so.
Did we
Other
separate
questions?
out any of that, like what potential wish list, cause we talked about kind of like that better best type of thing, like did they give you any like feedback on, you know, if we could have it, this,
There
you know,
are a
needs
couple
versus
things that are
wants? Okay.
kinda gray.
Okay.
But we stuck with the hard items.
okay,
Yeah.
And this actually, I made this statement, is that, there's different approaches, but rather than add extra stuff that you're willing to sacrifice and delete, you know, I don't think that's a really good use of our time. Stick with the hard things and be certain about it. You know, I don't like the cutting game. You know, if you're reasonable at the start, you should be able to drive that, and you have to go for the money that will support that.
Right. And not only support it today, but will support it
Correct.
over the next 25 years or more, right? Because we can't go, well, we don't really need that now. You know, I remember 15 years ago driving through the Rutland area and stuff like that, and someone had said to me, oh, they'll never build those big McMansions out here. You know, they're building them left, right, and center out here now. And we never thought 15 years ago that they would. It's the same with this. We have to plan for the future, or we're just gonna be back to square one in 25 years, and it's gonna be our kids trying to figure out what we're doing in this town, and now we've gotta do a rip and replace again.
And that was, I forget who made the point, that was one of my favorite points made thus far, was that, hey, if they would've just done it
Yeah.
30 years ago, we wouldn't be going, so we shouldn't do that to
Right.
30 years from now.
Right. Yeah, we have a responsibility to do this right.
we do.
Even if it's gonna cost a little bit more money.
I think, I feel pretty strongly about this, is that we're never gonna be right. It's always gonna be a forecast and an estimate. And as far as growth in this town, I appreciate and would use Rutland as an example, except that I don't believe it applies as strongly to Hubbardston. Having worked with the Concom, the Conservation Commission, and also I'm on the Open Space Committee, we're looking at what land really can be developed. And unless we have a Quabbin Reservoir thing, that's one extreme where they shut us down and we have no new growth. The other example is kind of the Rutland that went out of control. And I say that only because other people told me that.
Sure.
That's not my, it's other people's opinion, but I understand where they're coming from. I don't believe Hubbardston's in that situation. I know about the Chapter 61 land. I know of, since the time I've been back in town, there's been 250 acres preserved by a land trust. There's another one coming up. So that's land that isn't going to be growth. Yes, there is still land along the roads that can be developed for housing and other businesses, but it's not gonna be a boom. That's my opinion.
So, one data point I wanna bring up, thinking of the future, right now, there is a plan to, bring train service out into Western Mass. And that line is gonna go right through Gardner using the existing railway. It's the east-west railway.
Yep.
If that happens, they will extend the commuter rail
Oh, yes.
out to Gardner,
And we'll be
which
in
puts
MBTA.
us now in the
Yes, we
3-mile
will.
limit
Yeah.
Yeah.
of, oh, now you need affordable housing in
Mhm.
Hubbardston, which means, oh
Just-
shit.
Just to be clear, it does not mean we need affordable housing. What it means is that we have to comply with MBTA adjacent rural community
Yes.
standards, which means we'd have to address our bylaw issue to make available the opportunity, should anyone ever be interested, for a plot of lands or lands, whether it ever came to fruition or not, for the ability for them to be able to build
Oh,
on
my,
that spot.
I'm 100% in agreement with you, spoken as a true lawyer. I'm 100% in agreement with you. All I wanna put on the table is, we have to, when we're talking about thinking about the future, it may not happen for 10 years, it may not happen for 15, but it might happen in 20.
The plan.
And we might have to, see apartment buildings here in town.
There's gonna be growth.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one not to deny it. Once again, it's the extent of it and how far do we go.
Some of that growth might be out of our hands.
That, well, it should be in our hands, but we're gonna have to manage it. I mean, it's good to bring up great, points, Mike, and I think with our master plan that's currently coming through and the planning board has had discussions on that. So what you mentioned, I don't think is new to the
And
town.
that plan, while not being tomorrow and maybe being longer, I have it on possibly the highest word I could get regionally, that calendar year 26 is when they wanna start that.
Yep.
So it's coming sooner
It's not
than-
later,
Yeah,
it's sooner.
but nothing happens.
There's already a number of towns that are taking the state to court over this. So, yeah, really my point is I wanted to make sure we got it on record here that we are not thinking of what do we need for a fire station in a public safety building today, that we are very consciously thinking what is going to be needed in 15 to 20 years. And whatever we build today will accommodate in 15 to 20 years.
Please, can it be walls?
And
This is 50 years.
And very good point, and Chief, we went over bunk rooms and that sort of thing, so it's, the good thing is that I think what they currently have is inadequate,
Oh, yeah,
but what we talked about was some standard kind of module rooms that could be easily expanded to accommodate in the future, but it was at minimal additional space.
right.
And, I think it
Yeah,
can
we can
be
build an
accommodated.
unfurnished room and then sometime in the future say, that's now the bunk room for the female firefighters.
That's what we talked about exactly,
Yeah.
So we're not,
Oh, but
we're
wait,
not.
we can't, because that's an administration room now, because we put all our files in there. I'm just kidding. That's what happened to all the
They'll all
other-
get shrunk down to a
Well,
USB stick and there'll be plenty of room.
Right.
So a perfect example is if you did a bunk room that's 10 by 10, then that bunk room can only be housed by one person. But if it's now 200 square feet, you could potentially grow into 2 people in that room.
Okay,
And
In the
put bunk
future,
beds.
Yeah.
with bunk beds
Yeah.
or whatever,
Okay.
but it's that 200 square foot that allows you to bunk 2 people. So
Right.
do you just make that room just 200 square feet? You
Yes.
may not put 2 people in it today, but 20 years from now you may.
Right,
And then do you put your shift commander's office, a general office space, but then do you build in like a Murphy bed? So
Right.
if there's a
Uh-huh,
shift
so that-
commander,
yeah,
then you just
yeah.
fold this.
Yeah.
or natural
Yeah.
disaster,
Yeah.
he's gonna be
Exactly.
there.
So those are the type of things that you try to, it may add 20 square foot to the room, but you could always now, it's a multi-purpose room.
Right.
For the future. So those are the types of things that we look
Yeah.
at.
yeah, that's, yeah.
And we did discuss that.
Yeah, and at one of the meetings months ago, we had talked about it, and I don't think I emphasized it. It was, we utilize those rooms now. We have a room that's a closet, it's a bunk room.
Right.
And we actually have one of the members, the last year and a half, he spends one night a week. When he has his back-to-back shift full-timer, he stays at the station, volunteers his time. During COVID, we utilized
Yep.
that room, plus the day room was converted into a bedroom. And then, weather events, hurricanes, blizzards, there's staffing we have people come in on the overnight, so it's not just something in the future, it's something that's been going on
Oh,
for
yeah.
years now.
Yeah, just look at the ice storm.
Yeah, so.
Don't make us bring the coop into this. That's-
I think a lot of this is gonna boil down to like what the exterior is gonna be and if there's potential to, instead of rebuilding the whole thing, to be able to add on as time goes on, as needed, if needed, so the base stays the same, what they're talking about, but depending on what we can get for an exterior, like if we do,
Metal
sorry,
building.
had a long day. Prefab or,
Right.
then you have the opportunities to kind of continue to, depending on where it's situated, so I think we can satisfy both parts. Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to make sure we had that all discussed, so that when the folks who are watching this later can see that we are going through and really thinking clearly, that we're not just coming up with some Taj Mahal building wish list.
Correct.
Yeah, cause you know that's gonna happen regardless, but
Well, it always comes down to
money.
money, precisely, and how do you resource it through whatever funding, grants, loans.
We don't qualify for many grants until such time as we have plans.
Sure.
Shovel-ready plans,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so we have to have a significant stake in the game before we do that.
Can I ask a question on that process? I was told years ago that, let's just say we came up with the number of $2 million, right, for a building. That before we could go for grants, the town would have to approve the whole 2 million and then we could go for grants?
No,
Okay.
we could, like Princeton right now has approval on the creation of shovel-ready plans. It kind of fell apart, so I don't know exactly where they are, but for the good of the order, that's what they have.
So we
That's
can go
all-
for
that's all
grants
they
and
have,
plan
like
and stuff.
$750,000.
We can go for grants and such based on plans that we've approved.
And already on every letter I write to State Rep Berthium and State Senator Durant, somewhere on there I say $1 million for shovel-ready plans for a public safety building.
Okay.
And it falls to the bottom because we have other lower value needs, but it's on there every single time.
Okay. Great.
Cause that would be my shot in the dark number after talking to some engineers and seeing what other communities are doing between 750 and $1 million. Just for the plans.
But that's like site assessment done, soil sampling
Right.
done, everything's done. You know, basically, it's a bid-ready document.
Right.
You know, it's ready to go. You have full drawings, you know, people can see it, touch it, and you know, and you feel more comfortable going to bid, that you know what the number is gonna be, and you're not just asking the town for a blank check.
Right.
We think it's gonna be X number of
Yeah,
square foot, you know, give
Yeah.
us, you know, X number of
Like,
dollars.
That was my problem with how it was done in 2019.
Yeah.
One, that front of the building should have never been published.
Oh,
And two, it was too hard and fast. It was, hey, we want,
It was a conceptual design, it was not a true design.
cause that's what I am kind of hoping our first ask is pieces and we just try to get the shovel-ready plans. Cause asking for $10 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Asking for one step in the right direction may be palatable.
I think we should explore, shovel-ready means different things to different people, and you can get there in different ways. So traditionally, most people are familiar with, design, bid, build. But you can design, build, and so shovel-ready for, a design-build project doesn't have a lot of the end state design, fleshed out at that point. What you need are your utilities, and site design needs to be shovel ready, but the full facility does not. And we tend to take a lot of time, and the designers consume a lot of resource, i.e. our money, at that point. And we all know that this is gonna be a slow process, I believe, unless something,
Some miracle happens.
oh, yeah, or some emergency happens. It's gonna take a while, and therefore you don't necessarily need all the end state design done.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You need the part that gets the shovel in the ground,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily all the architectural details.
And to just put this out there, and I don't mean to step on any toes either, it kinda is my end of week Thursday night brain thinking, we're even putting the cart before the horse right now. We need to figure out if we're done with Gardner
Yeah,
Road.
yeah.
We need to figure out how to go back to the select board and ask for that money that's currently on the table, but is going away relatively quickly, cause we need to have it contracted out. Like, it can't just be, oh, we're doing this,
Right.
we know. We need a signed
Document.
contract
Yeah, it needs to be
by the
obligated.
end of the year.
Yeah. So a firm needs to be chosen, a contract needs to be signed by the end of December.
Yeah, so I think that should be more of the conversation at this point in the game versus what we need and what we need 20 years down the road, cause we know the chiefs will let us know.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So,
we want a police station.
Yes.
I'm gonna skip past the website thing, so, because the update, Nate, was for, if you had, at our last meeting, you had mentioned you were gonna just kind of run it by the select board, see if there was anything available or where we stood, so you're telling us where,
We still have our shot
still
at the
there,
money
okay.
that we had the shot at before.
but is it still the 30? Cause
Yes, I'd have to look the
Okay.
last time, yeah.
cause there was some talk about using that for some other things at the last, so I just wanted to make sure,
We have not.
okay.
Cause the boiler issue's been resolved
Boiler
through the
issue.
budget.
Boiler issue, I'm aiming to resolve either through an earmark in the Senate version of the budget or through town meeting.
Okay.
I have a article on there to use capital stabilization for the 65,000, and it would still leave us above our cap state goals.
Okay.
Okay, and you there was an email sent to Jan today,
Months ago.
months ago. Oh, right, I must have, yes, okay.
I reached out to
No,
him.
well, you told him you were gonna get him some engineer information anyway, so it probably took a little bit to get that together, so.
Yeah, no, I got beyond the information today. I do not think he's going to be interested in doing this. It's between $2,500 and $5,000 for just the phase 1 study, and the phase 2, we're talking more like 12 to 18,000, and they're good for a year,
They're good for a year.
for 1 year.
Can I share?
Absolutely. You can make copies if you'd like.
I'll just click and pass it down.
Yep.
And were there any grant funds available to him as a landowner? Like-
Not that I could find without an obligation.
Yeah,
Like, that was the problem, is right now, we're not saying, like, it's hard with the town, as you know. We can't say, oh, we're going to buy that from you if all the boxes are checked. It still could be environmentally cleared, and we could still not get the money.
right.
Mm.
Did you print out the actual quotes?
Yeah, I printed
So
out, your
12,800.
email, exactly, yeah.
Oh, there were 2 quotes attached to that,
Oh, I didn't print out
like,
the quotes, no,
from
I'm
the
sorry,
actual
I did not.
environmental companies.
No.
I don't think we need those, Nate, I think, you
Yeah.
know, I don't think we wanna dive that deep
It's
into the
quite-
rabbit hole.
Minutia.
I
Yeah,
think-
no,
I think it's kinda here, you know, you can get a ballpark, of
So-
what it is. Riverhawk Environmental, scope of work has a number next to it.
So if Jan's not interested in doing that, then that closes that box
Right.
and we move
Yeah.
on.
We just move on, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how many pretty details we look at, if his answer is no, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll give him a call next week I don't know if they're back or not yet.
Okay,
When they're here, he's usually pretty quick at getting back, so.
okay. So, but we're at a 99% that he's at a no thank you.
I don't know,
Pass it on.
I know where I would be in that exact situation, and Miana's a businessman, but
Well, Carrie,
I mean-
was it you or someone else who had mentioned that he's gonna have to do that regardless of where he sells the property?
he will, but with the year time frame is what I'm mostly worried about. Cause if he does it now, and then we drag our feet for 4 months, and then we eventually say no, and it takes him another 6 months to clean up the property to a point where he's comfortable to sell it, then he's gonna have to spend another $2,500 to $5,000, potentially even go to a second phase, which he may have to do anyway. So who knows, the $2,500 to $5,000 may be worth spending just to know if he needs the phase 2, which he likely does.
But if he needs the phase 2 is the remediation, or phase 2 is the further study? I don't
I
recall.
believe it's a
That's the further study.
further study.
It doesn't
Okay.
remediate anything at that
Yeah.
point, you would still
This just
have
tells him
to-
what he needs to remediate.
So,
Okay,
a bank will not loan on a property like that without having this stuff done.
so phase
So
2
it-
is also good for only a year.
Well, wait, let's
No,
make
That I
sure we,
cannot speak to
Okay.
Yeah.
100%.
Can I ask, what or who is holding us back from moving forward with something other than this?
Nothing. We actually own a property across from the
Right,
I
but
think that's
again,
further on
we-
down the,
Again, we
Down
just,
the
we
agenda.
wanted to just
Do due
do
diligence?
due
Yes.
diligence so that we could tell people that we explored this to its fullest extent.
or to a great extent. I don't
Okay,
know,
yeah.
Fullest,
I
This
think
had
this is a
actually
pretty
been-
good extent, honestly, because this means
Yeah.
there's a lot of out of pocket for him and potentially a real lot out of pocket, cause, you know,
And
until the studies are done.
Even boiled down, what we have to remember is we disqualified this option one time because we were too far apart. It was before, cause our, whatever you call it, our, what do you call those?
Appraisal?
Appraisal came in at around $725,000, don't quote me, give her right in the sevens. He wants in the nines, and that was last year. The 725 appraisal came in before he built some of that extra area. That he built that area to attempt to close the gap, but we still don't know if that gap was closed, if we can get any closer. I can't imagine that building 1,000 square feet on top of another room is going to add $150,000, $200,000 to the value of your home, and things have gone down since this time last year.
Right.
Not much, but slightly.
I think he enclosed some, a bay
Yeah.
or some bays,
Yeah.
so. It's a matter of, we're not there yet on any approach, in my mind. But we need to proceed on parallel paths and establish decision points when you knock one out. And be moving down the, you know, the non-existing facilities. Cause if you look at Hackala's place on Elm Street, you know, it's also a similar type facility, but I don't have any of the details on that. I just drove by and said, huh, it's got a high door there. I don't think it would meet the bay requirements, just in the quantity, the amount of bays that you fundamentally have to have, but, you know.
What you have to remember though is even if we were to buy it, we're building onto it. Like it
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, oh, let's toss the fire in the police department into this building and best of luck to you guys.
Yeah.
Like there were.
Oh, it is not a ready-to-go turnkey operation, not at all.
And at what point do we lose the value in remediating this older building versus just
Renovating.
shooting our shot?
I think it's more like gutting.
Yeah, I do too.
So I think,
If we stick with the, what are we on agenda-wise here, Gary?
I skipped past the website, cause that was,
I
it's
gotcha.
not one of the biggest
Are
things,
we
so
on the update
we're
then?
on the update at this
Okay.
point,
I can
but this
make
is
us,
leading to, huh?
100% we can, the public safety building can have a portion of the town website.
Yes, I knew that,
Let me know what you want.
I wasn't sure how big our discussion would be tonight, and I thought if we wanted to at least start to outline, we could put what we wanted down, what we wanna put so far, so that's why that's in there. But we've talked a lot about, a lot of us haven't actually been down to the land we own.
Right. I'm
Sure.
sorry to interrupt,
Sure.
Gary, but can we just answer this question and then we can move on?
What's the question?
Talk with the select board lawyers to clarify the ability if the town could spend money at 60 Gardner Road. The answer to that is?
No.
No, thank you.
That was on our meeting minutes from last time, and Nate was gonna check, so.
Well, and he just answered it, so good. Okay.
Not in that way, like we couldn't buy the environmental study.
Correct.
Good, that's what we needed. Well, that's what I needed.
You're all warm and fuzzy now?
So
Well,
I mean,
just
are we almost
answer
to
the
the point
question
that
on
if
the
we don't
agenda.
hear back from Jan in the next 2 weeks, that we move on to the site that we own?
I think we
And we just
concurrently
move- we
do it,
just-
yeah, we don't
We
even
just-
wait
I don't
2
think we
weeks.
need-
Yeah, I don't either, but,
I mean, there's nothing hard and fast,
yeah.
you know, things are gonna come up in the future and who knows? Examples over the last 15 years or so, what was it, in 2008, when there was the, we got a lot of funding for public facilities, under President Obama.
Mm-hmm.
What was that program? ARRA, American Recovery and something Act. And there was I wrote a lot of grants at that time, you know, the COVID thing. So, you know, we may get lucky, I don't think we should count on that, but just be prepared that
Once again, you come back to
Shovel-ready.
shovel-ready plans.
Right.
Like, that's,
So those are the only things that got funded, were things that were ready to build right away.
I think
other things got funded, cause I know, but, the ones that rose to the top of the list were the shovel-ready. That, we knew that if we couldn't get it shovel-ready, that we had a lesser chance of receiving funding. But we did, we got it for design, we got it for construction, there was actually 3 stages: planning, design, construction. And there were 3 tiers, and we received funding for all of them, on the merits of a project.
on that one, the gentleman from Congressman Markey's office and the gentleman from
Senator Markey.
Senator Markey and Congressman McGovern, both of their staff know that that's what we're looking for. I've attended meetings with them, talked about just that, cause it really, there are minimal projects in town that would be adequately ready for federal funding.
I think it behooves us to start making some decisions. Fish or cut bait, it's time to cut bait. And me personally, I think we ought to stick with the land we own and getting a shovel-ready set of plans done. I think that should be our priority. I think we've given Jan a ton of time to respond. And I'm not so sure that once we start digging into that building, that we end up in a situation where, you know, we have to do far more than it would cost to just start new.
I ask that we don't jump off quite yet, cause I did email him this morning, so.
I'm not asking for an answer today,
Yeah,
but like
but I think
within the
we
next
should-
week.
Yeah,
I think we need to move forward.
I think Seth mentioned a couple weeks. I would recommend we proceed concurrently.
Yeah. And then we'll take a
Enough.
formal vote at the next meeting that,
Yes.
It's yes.
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 Yeah.
Did you wanna speak to anything?
Do you wanna speak to him? No, I'm okay, I mean, I guess I would just, I'm okay with that plan, I think, you know, the reason we've gone down this rabbit hole a little bit anyway is to make sure that we do beyond even our due diligence to the voter, we wanna make sure that when we have the project come up and if it's on the other property, we can say, we did everything we can to explore this property, we did this, we did this, we did this, we looked at this, this didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, this is the only other option we have. Because someone's gonna be like, well, I don't understand why we didn't go with the other property, it would have cost us less money. Now, what is that based on? That's based on an opinion, speculation, everything else. But we can say, no, we haven't. In the end, you know, you don't know. You know, you could come back and be like, hey, I'm gonna have to do step one, I'm gonna probably have to do phase two anyway. Yeah, of course, I'll happily do that, I'll jump right on, we'll get going on these and we'll get them done the next few months and then we can talk about, you know, possibilities.
2 years later.
And that's possible, well, then we put timelines on things, right? We say, you know, we can't keep waiting on this for 2 years. You know, when is Jan back in town?
May, so,
We're in May.
I know.
So if we have our next
Soon.
meeting for early June, you know, if we haven't heard from him by that point, or if the answer
Yeah,
is not
yeah.
a absolutely
Yeah.
yes, and here's where I already applied and signed up and phase one's happening next week.
If I don't hear from him by the midpoint of next week, I was gonna ask Francois where he was in the world.
I, to your point, I think we need not just a, yeah, I think we should do this response from Jan. We need a, this is what's gonna happen, if this happens, that happens, blah, 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 and then we can make our decision, early June.
And I know we wanna get going on this, I think this is one of those times that slow and steady wins the race, right? Like, we don't wanna get ahead of ourselves, we wanna be able to check that box, because when we're standing in front of town people at town meetings selling multi-million dollars worth of, this is why we need to buy this here, we need to be able to answer that question.
And the only point of this that I feel is kind of S or get off the pot is for the ARPA money. That's the
Yeah.
only point of this that I feel like has any rush at all, and that's
Right.
even from me going, alright, I wanna get this to the select board, get either this or something funded so that we can go and get the contract, so that we don't end up having to cut a check for $30,000 to $50,000 to the federal government.
Right. So if we, at this point, $30,000, we talked about this at the last meeting, so somebody is gonna get us where?
It would get us, if we went with Jan's property or went to look and explore Jan's property, it would probably get someone to be able to come in and assess a very specific checklist of feasibility
Right, okay.
properties, right? Can we do this? Can this heating system be adjusted for that? Can we put bay doors on here?
Is it
Can we
feasible?
add a second floor? Yeah, but I think it would have to be a much more specific feasibility study for them than is it feasible? Cause then you're just saying, have that, good luck, and come back with information that we
yeah.
don't want, we can't use, and
I'm hoping on either one, it would be a feasibility and cost study. Like, I'm hoping we would come out of spending $30,000 knowing, alright, now we have to ask for X for plans, $1 million, and the whole project is gonna cost $9 million.
So, alright, so don't everybody come at me, cause, so. I'm thinking through this, but I'm gonna ask the question, probably stupidly, but. Is it worth it to put this to rest, if this feasibility study at Jan's is saying, no, it would cost, like, is it worth it to do this and not even worry about phase one, phase two? Because if the feasibility study says, okay, well, the specifically can't do this, can't do that, or it's gonna cost us more. Do you understand what I'm
But
saying?
is that throwing good money after bad?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking and putting it out there, because we're waiting, and if we're all kind of looking to put this part at least to bed, is the $30K at this point what would it help us with the property we've already had the
A
feasibility study.
major unfortunate portion of this is if there wouldn't have been a crazy amount of turnover, if we would have jumped at this right away, we could have spent $60,000 figuring out if Young's
Right.
house worked.
Yep.
But because we took time and there was turnover and there was uncertainty and a global pandemic
Mhm.
but yeah, so.
So in other words, we're back to the not till next meeting, Carrie, because we have to find out whether or not.
Right.
If Jan says no, he's not doing the phase 1, phase 2, we're done.
Mhm.
We don't have to spend another dime, we can write up a couple paragraphs and put it on a report and throw it on the website and say, listen, you know, for those who are interested and curious about this property, we've ruled it out, here's why. This is end point, number 1.
I would be willing to, and I can only speak for myself, I'd be willing to during that time frame go walk the property
Yeah.
too. Just let me know a couple days in advance, so I don't wear my dress shoes.
I think
You
that'd
mean
be a
at
good
Yon's or
idea.
the property, our property?
Our property.
Our-
Yeah, I would like to go and just get a, yes,
That's the next agenda item.
I
Wear
think we
long
should set
pants.
up a meeting date for that.
What's that
Yeah.
like?
Wear long pants, ticks.
How many people are gonna be at Memorial Day? Just trying to double up.
I will not,
I will.
on vacation.
I'll be in a suit.
You'll be there.
And get your boots.
Yeah.
I'll be
These
there.
are my suit boots. Like, no.
Alright, so that won't work. I was trying.
so, alright, so in a couple weeks, we can go walk that property before we have our actual next meeting date, so,
What do your days look like? Cause I speak for myself and I'm gonna assume the chief that days really work for us.
my days are fine, yeah, my days are fine.
I mean,
I can do the morning,
okay.
like 9 o'clock.
You
I
can make
prefer
Fridays
morning.
work. With
Fridays,
notice,
I can-
with notice, like
Yeah.
a week and a half notice, I can do.
Fridays, yeah.
Fridays with notice for
You're
Heather,
the boss.
It's like a meeting.
and Mike, you said 9 AM
Yeah,
is usually
somewhere
good
around
for
there.
you.
I don't like meetings.
Who does?
I don't hate
Well,
it.
there's some people out there that don't like, let's see.
They live for it.
Oh.
Noel seems to be
Monday,
making it just
Tuesday,
fine.
Wednesday night meetings, I really don't mind.
So do we wanna target a Friday morning
Sure.
and
Yeah.
get a date?
Sure, I don't have anything with me, calendar wise.
People around the Friday before Memorial Day,
The 24th?
24th.
And that's about 2 weeks before the meeting, and that's about,
I could do that.
Can everyone else do that?
I think so.
Friday the 24th?
I cannot.
Okay.
Seth?
I don't need to be there.
yeah, I mean, we don't all
Yeah.
have to be
Okay.
there.
Of course, I say that, now I'm thinking I have 2 kids' doctor's appointments. But I think they're in the morning. So let me see if I can find the time.
Well, that's what we
Well,
were-
Mike can only meet at 9.
Oh, so I probably can't do that. I mean, you guys can always do it without me, I can
Yeah.
always, you know, catch up at a later date, stick my husband and the kids in the car and go for a walk. Hopefully we don't get arrested.
Before we do that, are there any plans that we can look at, regarding the well and septic? There's our existing utilities there, right?
Yeah, I can put that together,
Okay.
can find it.
Cause just to go out there and walk to see the weeds in the field and not knowing what the property boundaries are, and some basic dimensions, you know, if we're getting
We
big
have that,
equipment
right?
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it before, I don't know where it's at, but.
So I know the tower was cited to be,
Away
to be right up against the public safety building.
Ah,
Yep.
okay, well,
Because the
good.
generator's already there, utilities
Yeah.
already, everything, so
Okay.
it was, that was the intent.
That's the
That's
kind
why
of-
it was.
that's what I
located-
wanted to
right
know.
behind it, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why it was located where it was that was the intent of where the building
So
would
is
go.
one of these existing
I don't know, you guys
Uh,
built it.
designs got a
Snowy
basic
side.
site plan
I don't.
that show the tower and the utilities in
I don't remember,
either the 19,
I think it's in the
quote unquote
nineteen,
design,
I think it's in
okay.
the 19 design. Cause I think they plotted that on that piece of property,
Good,
so at least you had a general idea of what it would look like and the flow pattern and traffic pattern would be. So,
good. Nate, how hard is that something I can come in to the office here next week and,
I don't even think you would need to come in. That Google link I sent you, in one of those.
Yeah.
it's actually on the
It's,
website
it
too.
isn't, yeah.
okay, alright.
Yeah.
Mike didn't think he had access to the Google Drive.
Well, nobody
I-
had given it to me.
And I can print a full size maps, map size, 36 inches,
You can?
I can.
Well, let's do that, Seth.
Okay, I have the technology.
We don't have the same capability as.
We have a larger
Rutland.
budget
I'm
at
not
Rutland's.
gonna ask.
Yeah.
Well, we have a giant printer, it just doesn't work, and it was a hand-me-down from places.
Right,
Like,
it doesn't work.
no.
Is it in our facility
Yep,
somewhere?
It's over there.
It's over there.
It's a door opener,
Yeah.
door stop.
Alright, so I just have one thing, I got an email today, I just wanted to run it by everybody to see if everybody felt like we might wanna do this or not, it was from Patricia Lowe, land use clerk, she, I guess they have an idea that at town meeting, they would like to see boards and committees at the town meeting with a table. It's June 4th,
June 4th.
so,
They is a broad term, it's completely my idea. Like Patricia.
as town meeting approaches, we have come up with an idea to have each, so, I don't know if we're at the point where we wanna do something like that yet, or if we have even anything to really,
I think we'll create more
I
questions
do
than we
too,
can answer.
I do too, but I wanted to at least,
All we're gonna be getting, well, what about Jan's place? And we can't talk to him.
Yeah.
So I strongly concur with Mike on that point, it's premature.
Yeah.
Unless we've come up with some basic facts, FAQs,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
we're not ready to
The
go.
main objective of that is filling vacancies. So.
Oh.
that's what it sounded like, yeah, yeah.
The main objective is trying to get volunteers to realize like, oh, I didn't know that was something I could volunteer for and they really needed me, like, so.
Right, well, I mean, yeah,
Okay.
well, it also, I mean,
I wouldn't be here anyway.
the opportunity allows residents to learn how your board or committee serves our town. So I just wanted to make sure everybody felt the same way I did, and it's probably not the greatest idea. Okay. Any other questions? Thoughts? Go ahead.
Did we set the Friday?
We set the Friday, I'll get an email out to everybody, I'll get, I'll post it as a meeting.
Mhm.
And then I'm shooting for June 6th, however, Ryan cannot do Thursdays at all, it's just a bad night for him, so he can do Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays are just super tough for me,
I vote Wednesday. Mondays are impossible for me.
Yeah,
I won't be there anyway. I'm on vacation first 2 weeks of
for the
May.
next, okay. Seth, does Wednesdays work for you too,
Yeah,
or,
Wednesdays
no,
are
I
great.
know, I was thinking that.
That's the only day I can.
Yeah,
Saturday mornings it is.
most flexible day for me is Friday.
I can meet anytime during the day, during the week.
okay,
I can meet generally any Friday during the day.
Rats, the building's closed.
right,
We'll have to open it.
Like,
Mike, Fridays?
During the day, if I have enough time in advance, I can
Make it
pop out
work.
of work, yeah.
I'd say the same.
so you can, cause I can do something, I can do days on Friday too.
if we're gonna do a Friday, I request that it's before 1 p.m.
Okay.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean,
We're gonna go for like 4:15.
Oh, I wouldn't come,
I-
like,
But, cause you're not, are you here at all?
I come in on Fridays that I don't have more than 2 night meetings.
Okay.
So depending on the night
Right.
meetings is if I'm here on Friday or not.
I mean, it would really be once a month unless we had something
Yeah,
really,
no, I can-
so.
I'm here most days anyway, I don't really ever know what to do between 8 AM and like 4 when I'm not working.
So let me just check with Ryan and make sure that a Friday at some point during the day before 1.
So
He's generally working, so he'd be here.
he may or may not have taken off a majority of the Fridays for the next couple months, so
Oh, okay,
so I can,
okay.
So we just have to find the Friday he didn't take off.
August,
Alright,
Oh, he took off every Friday?
most of them, yeah.
so is it worth even asking? Cause that's the only reason we were gonna move things around, right? And so if we pick another date that you
We
can't
could
be
just go
here,
on
that's
Thursday
not
night,
helpful.
same thing.
Well, I think it's challenging
Yeah.
to try
To
and
get
get this
everything.
number of people, plus Nate.
Yeah.
So our board, our committee is 7, plus 1 is 8. I applaud us for trying to get everybody, but
Yeah, we're-
that's why you have a quorum.
Right,
Mhm.
Yep.
so we'll just leave it the way it is for now then, is that,
Which means now we have,
I'm gonna shoot for June 6th.
Okay.
Motion to
Is
adjourn,
that my
oh, no,
anniversary?
sorry,
No, June 3rd is my anniversary.
We'll be here, but
One
Yes,
year.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
There was the talk of this 30K. I would strongly recommend that we're not out studying and doing feasibility per se, that it's a very targeted scope, detailed scope, and that, for 30K, I don't know how much we're gonna get.
I know,
So we need to be very targeted our priorities. If you just let an architect engineering firm go free, it'll, we won't get
we
what
need, we need to have
and want.
answers to the following questions.
Exactly.
There's 30K.
yes,
Very
yes,
targeted.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Very targeted.
Exactly.
yes.
give me your quote
Thank
to
you.
get my answers.
Yes.
And-
Per
and I-
question, please.
And I think the architect needs to be specialized in the public safety world,
Yes.
not someone
COA.
that does COA, yeah, cause Boylston just went through this and it was horrific.
I almost wanna say it should be pass-fail.
Yeah.
No details.
Yep.
Cause then people will just get into the minutia.
Alright, any other questions,
Can I make a
comments,
motion to adjourn?
concern?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Sure.
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Carrie, Heather, happy Mother's